for our second speech, I'll get the right person. Rolf Ridge is giving his number 7, and I think since he's doing PowerPoint presentations, he's going to actually merge them and do his number 8 speech at the same time today. He's looking at me like that. He's doing his number 7 speech, which is on Research Your Topic. It is entitled, "What the Heck is Going On in Egypt, and Why Should I Care?"
Good afternoon, members, guests, and thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. So I knew I had to do my number 7 speech, and I was ruminating on events in Egypt, and I figured I'll do my Research Your Topic speech on Egypt. And I had heard that rising food prices were a catalyst for the unrest. So I did some research, and I learned that food prices had gone up in Egypt as a result of high energy prices and bad weather. So record heat in Russia and record flooding in Pakistan severely impacted the wheat crop and led to higher food prices around the world, including Egypt. And then also high energy prices have a strong effect on food prices. So those two factors. In a country that has very high wheat consumption, per capita, Egypt consumes more wheat than Italians, in spite of all the pasta they eat over there. And the government has traditionally subsidized, I also learned in my research, food. So a loaf of bread on the streets of Egypt costs about 1 penny in our money. Another thing I learned is that Egypt recently went from becoming an oil exporter to an oil importer. So rather than lots of income, now Egypt is having to pay for their oil. And that affects the government's ability to subsidize food for the citizens. So we have a perverse feedback loop. I realized last night when I was writing my speech that high food prices are leading to unrest in oil-producing countries. And unrest in oil-producing countries is leading to a higher energy cost, which in turn increases food prices, which in turn causes more unrest. So that's the globalized world we live in. Slide number 1, please. So in economics, and we have a couple people in here who study economics, they say that when the price goes up, the market will provide more supply. Now this is a graph of oil production, and you notice the part that says we are here. My research has led me to conclude that we are at the peak of our oil production, and the future, and here is speculated, the future will probably look like less oil production. And I'm limiting this to 4 slides. There are a lot of other great slides. There's a great one that starts low on the left and goes high on the right, and that's world food prices, which are at their highest ever, according to the people who track world food prices. Now, some people will look at this slide and say, so what? You know, oil goes up, oil goes down, we'll do something else. Some people will look at this slide and say, no, we're not there yet. It's not the peak. You know, we'll find more. And other people would look at this slide and say, well, actually, oil's probably infinite. We live in an infinite universe. Certainly there's more. Resources really aren't limited. I have come to believe that oil is a non-renewable resource, and we'll find it, we'll utilize it to the greatest extent we can, and then at some point it gets more expensive or it gets harder to find, and then we'll use less. So an example of this is the United States. We were the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia of oil. We started the oil age. Early on in Pennsylvania, and later the Los Angeles Basin was the Saudi Arabia of its day. And then around 1970, in spite of trying as hard as we could, our production started to drop. And there's a little blip, that was Alaska, the last huge oil field that was discovered. Didn't increase our peak, it slowed it down a little bit, but we are on an inexorable decline. And another fact I learned is there are more wells drilled in the United States than the rest of the world combined. So some people might argue, well, we're constrained in our ability to look. We can't drill where we want to. That really hasn't been the case through history. We're drilling more than we ever have, and we're continuing to produce less than we used to. So in facing this oil predicament, people say Saudi Arabia will save us. That's the common refrain. Saudi Arabia will come to the rescue. So notice the graph here. The light gray area is total production. The black line is total consumption within the country. And the green is exports. So imagine that gray line. The trend is it's going down. Saudi Arabia is not producing more oil. Saudi Arabia is consuming more oil. And you can picture those two trends meeting in the not terribly distant future. So that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia will save us with its oil production is not borne out by the facts, according to my research. In the past, as per classical economics, when the price goes up, more supply will come online. But recently, as the price has gone up, we just have a recession until demand goes down, and then the price goes down, and then we carry on. It's taken as faith that Saudi Arabia will come to the rescue, but based on my research, I don't think that's the case anymore. So people are angry in Egypt, and now it's spread, because it took me a while to write this speech, it's spread all around the Middle East and other parts of the world. People are angry, food prices are high. Food prices are high because of bad weather, and only Carl can do anything about that. I think energy prices are going to stay high as well. And here's my last slide. So I think the root of the problem is this. Here's the population of the world, starting at 10,000 BC, when Raquel Welch was running around in a leather bikini, and clearly not many other people, maybe Charlton Heston or somebody else. But if you look just on the far right side of the graph, suddenly we're at 6 million people, and now even more. The people in Egypt want democracy, and they want affordable food. And they want democracy to make their food affordable. But we're adding another Egypt's worth of people to the planet every year, over 80 million people. So after seeing what's happening in Egypt and doing some research, I've come to realize that I have a lot in common with the people in Egypt. And I think all of you do as well. Thank you, sir.